Hello and good day to all of my wonderful comment followers and let me know as Francois T here. Welcome to today's social issues chat. As you can probably see, well actually you probably can't see me. It's going to be more of an audio chat today, but that is okay. Welcome to our social issues chat. Today is on abortion. Now, before we get things underway, I just want to make note of the fact that it is quite a serious topic and it is quite a contentious issue. So I would like to say that to everyone, please don't take any offence. It will be quite a frank discussion, but as we always say, comment below and let me know. Be respectful of others' opinions and also know that yours will be respected also. We have a few people in the room, which is fantastic. So shout outs to President A and to Sarah. And we are actually joined today by one of our comment below and let me know members, the wonderful Angels. Angels, would you like to say hi?
Yeah, I just want to say hello to everyone. It's an honor to be the first sort of, like when it's not a hangout, the first actual official sort of person on a panel to talk about something like this. It is a really contentious issue, and I think that it's something that does deserve to be debated in a decent manner. I'm really glad that that we can sort of discuss it and get people's opinions.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and it's an honor to have you here with me. I think it's going to be wonderful. Okay, let's quickly go over to the YouTube chat. Sorry, guys, just had a bit of an issue there. I guess let's start by taking a few comments first, and then maybe we'll go into our own opinions after that. So first of all, President A has said that he has no problems with abortion if it's for the right reasons, if there are serious medical conditions for either mum or the baby, also if the baby is badly disabled. Yeah, I would definitely say that I would agree with that. Angels, what's your opinion on that stance there when it comes to serious medical conditions for the mum or the baby, or if the child is disabled?
I think that obviously if it's a medical, because obviously this is all opinion, you know, it's a very difficult issue to talk about. It's very much opinion based, but I think when it comes down to especially medical conditions for the mother, if it's life threatening or there's some sort of then yes, absolutely, because that's an existing life and you wouldn't want to kind of put it at threat. You know, by maybe carrying a pregnancy full term for risk of losing both lives, if you see what I mean. But I do think that when it comes to, I'm sorry about that, it's Heathrow Airport, can't help it. Yeah, I think that when it comes down to if a baby is known to have a condition or be disabled, there are some people that choose to carry the baby to full term anyway. So I guess that is something that I couldn't necessarily comment on. I think it would be totally dependent on the person and their pregnancy, and do you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't. It's not something that anybody else basically could make the judgment of.
Yeah, exactly. I would completely agree. And I think the point with this is, and you're absolutely right, because it does come down to a number of different factors, and I completely understand what you're saying, is that the mother wouldn't be judged if they were to terminate the child if it had a disability, and I don't think we could judge the mother for doing that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just having a quick look at the comments. Everyone's saying hi to each other, which is cool.
Yeah. Definitely, I just want to give a quick shout out to Sarah, who says that she may not be here for too long, but thank you for joining us, Sarah. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really nice to see you always, Sarah. Trust me. Well, you know what I was like. I could barely even function with my man flu like yesterday or whatever, so I totally understand.
And a shout out to Marissa, who has joined us. Hi, Marissa.
I know, yeah, and she's had about 5 minutes sleep, so I'm very impressed.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Okay, so Sarah has a comment here. She's saying, so basically my thoughts are, I'm all for people having the right to choose what happens with their own bodies. I'm all for people making a decision that is no doubt personal. yeah, I would definitely yeah, agree with that as well. Certainly sounds very pro-choice. And Angels, do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, it's really. I'm sorry, it's really noisy outside the pub. But yeah, no, I do. I think that she's absolutely spot on. I think that I think that the fundamental sort of right to choose is something that every woman should have, because ultimately we're not in a place to start judging what other people do with their bodies. I feel like it's too intrusive for someone like the state or other people involved or whatever to turn around and say, you must do this with your body because I said so. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it in my mind is just simply not fair. Now, other people have different opinions. I believe, I know that there are some people that have, like, for example, people who are very strong on the Christian faith and various other faiths who are very anti. But in my view, I don't really think it's up to us to play God and be like, yeah, this person has to do that because I've decided to follow this faith. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, and I don't think that anything gives us that right. But that's my opinion, and we all have our own, right?
No, absolutely. And I completely agree. It's great. Sarah's actually gone to elaborate, saying, I know there are many reasons why one might want to have an abortion, like medical, sexual assault, too young, and as Angels says, not something I can make a judgment on, especially reasons as to why. Yeah, I mean, I would completely agree, Sarah. Obviously, for myself, I'm in an interesting position being a male. I can't give birth unless science comes up with a miracle in the next millennia or so. But yeah, completely agree. We can't sit here and make judgments. Every situation is completely different. And so yeah, definitely I would have to agree with you on that as well. Skylar has joined us in the room also. Hi Skylar, thank you so much.
Hey Skylar.
And on a personal note, I just want to say thank you, Skylar, again for the package that you sent me today. I did a video on that earlier and just wanted to say thank you once again for that. So yeah, if there's anyone else that is in the room and you have an opinion on this, certainly let us know. As we say, there is no judgment here at all. Comment below and let me know. So feel free to let us know what your opinion is and have your voice be heard. Sorry, Angels, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that this is actually quite, like, out of all of our topics, this is quite a contentious one, in the sense that, oh God, I wish I could shut these people up. But I think this is quite a contentious one, because I know that, it does, like, get a lot of people's backs up. So, and I also respect other people's opinions in the sense that a lot of people just simply don't believe in it, full stop, and that's totally fine, because I understand that it is one of those things, but like I said, when it comes down to me, I suppose I'm just pro-choice, and that's that. Like, I don't view it as anything else other than that, and it's not really my job or anyone else's, in my view, to sort of judge, depending on the situation. But yeah, so what did Skylar say? She said, oh no, she said abortion is such a good topic. It is, but what's your view on it, Skylar? Are you basically pro-choice too, or? Yeah, Sarah just said, by the way, hey, President A. Sarah just said, I personally do feel a little upset by women who choose to not use protection and then choose abortion as their first choice of protection. Yeah, like, this is also something I feel quite strongly about. Oh, Dario's here. Hey, Dario.
Oh, hi, Dario.
I agree. Of course, it's not a form of protection. I mean, it's a horrible thing for anybody to go through, and I think that obviously it should never be. It should be literally the last port of call, and it should be a decision that's made with somebody being sensible about it. But no, you're absolutely right, Sarah. I get quite upset if somebody would sort of just casually, like, have multiple abortions as like a sort of like birth control option or whatever. Yeah, I don't agree with that. You're right. So yeah, I probably still wouldn't judge massively, like you said, but secretly I would feel a bit like, oh God, seriously, like this could really be avoided,
Yeah, definitely. I will completely agree. Yeah, it's kind of tough, as I say, being a male and you know, having my say on something that, you know, is all about the woman's right to choose. But I do think that especially like if a couple decides not to use protection and it is planned, and then I don't know, I can't even fathom making up a scenario, but then just on a whim, the woman deciding maybe to have an abortion would be an interesting scenario. But yeah, it's yeah. I would say I completely agree, and definitely would be promoting everyone to use protection. Unprotected sex, unless you know what you're doing and you're planning it and all of that, it can be quite dangerous. So I just wanted to also put that out there. Go ahead, Angels.
Yeah, I was about to say, quick disclaimer, kids, use protection.
Sorry, that's absolutely right.
But I also, I just wanted to bring up, because I saw that Skylar had said, she said that she said, I'm pro-choice and for abortion up until a certain point. Right now this is an interesting thing, because this is the whole slippery slope discussion. How far is too far? Like, where's the cutoff? Where is it okay to have an abortion up until? And see, I personally do think it makes a big difference too. So she said, for instance, I'm okay with abortions as long as the baby is dependent on the mother. But if the baby is at the point that it can live on its own, independently from the mother, then she'd consider it to be a living human being, and the woman should not abort, because at that point it's too late. The problem, like, and this is actually literally an ongoing argument, like, where is the cutoff date? I think technically the cutoff date is like 20 something weeks in the UK. I'm not sure what it is anywhere else. Oh, we do have the technical assistant online, so maybe he could quickly Google and like post it. But I believe it's 20 something weeks. I personally would view that as too late, but again, that's, you know, not really my judgment. But I think that Skylar's right, the earlier the better, in the sense that, you know, the baby hasn't actually developed yet, so it hasn't actually developed into a human being. Well, if that makes sense. But then what do you judge as a human being? Like, this is another thing that's really down to what people believe, like, because there are many people, like pro-life people, who don't agree in abortion whatsoever, believe that the moment that the egg is fertilized or whatever. Yeah, I think it's the same, Skylar. I think it's about 24 weeks here. But, you know, they believe that the moment an egg is fertilized, that, you know, that is when life starts. And so therefore you don't have the right to abort, which I personally don't agree with. But then again, like I said, it's very contentious. Where do you, because if in some countries, especially ones where they're relatively religious, what they have is like a very short period in which you can legally have an abortion. So it's between something like 0 and, I don't know, like 14 weeks or something, or whatever. I believe the maximum, because what they do is they try and make it so that obviously the living fetus doesn't sort of feel, when it starts to literally form like a proper human being and feels everything and stuff. That's obviously wrong, and that's what they try and cut out. But it's, like I said, how long's too long, really? You know what I mean? It's quite a contentious issue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's as I said, it is quite a contentious issue. I think I need to do more reading up upon like when it's determined to be that cutoff. I don't know too much about that, but it does make for an interesting point. You know, because are you aborting something that can, as Skylar says, survive on its own or not? But yeah, I just find that really interesting. I also find it interesting what Sarah's saying. Sarah says it's hard seeing people who cannot have kids, as Francois said, or gay couples, and there are people abusing their privilege to be able to conceive. And I think it's perfectly normal to feel upset with that. Sarah, what I will say on that is it is tough for people like me who, who cannot at the moment have children, and seeing this happen, I think for me, it's sort of, a bit of a tug of war in my heart and in my mind, in that I completely understand, like, if there is a medical problem with the child or something like that, or especially if the mother is a rape victim, I completely understand. But if there's absolutely nothing wrong with the child, there is a part of me that does feel a little like, oh, that's a child that I could have had. But in saying that, I can't contend with the fact that it is the woman's right to choose. And I feel like I keep going back to that now. Now, I'll admit, certainly, even not so long ago, I would have been, very much against aborting any child that doesn't have any problems with it, or any problems to the mother having the child. So it has been quite a recent change for me, but now I am viewing it more along the lines of, the mother and the woman having the right to choose. But there is just that small part of me that completely understands what you are saying there, Sarah. Angels, do you want to comment on that? People who can't have kids.
Yeah, I think I actually think that, well, there's two things there. First is, if they are a male and female couple and therefore biologically can have kids, but then can't. I think that's entirely different to a gay couple who want to have children and who have decided either to adopt or, maybe use a surrogate or whatever, right? Or foster or whatever. So I think that those are two different issues, and we could debate them both separately. But if I go for the first one, straight couples who in theory, like biologically should be able to conceive but can't, I think it's pretty heartbreaking for people like that to then turn around and see that people are just casually like having abortions up until quite a late period and stuff. Like, I'm not really with that. I don't like that at all. So, but then having said that, straight couples also have a hell of a lot of options available to them. I think even like in the UK, I think if they're having troubles conceiving, I think you can get a few rounds of IVF on the National Health Service. So I think it's like 3 or something on the National Health Service. So you can sort of see if that's successful, and if not, then there's obviously other options like adoption or fostering and stuff. Or again, yeah, like using a surrogate. By the way, can I just say, surrogacy for me would be the worst thing in the world. 9 months of puffy ankles and no booze and nothing to show for it. Ugh, no thanks. But anyway, on the other issue, which is gay couples wanting, I think that must be also really gutting. Going back to you, Francois, like if you want children and you see that people are sort of going through with abortions and not really taking it seriously, and yet you're in a really stable relationship and you want a child, and either you're going to go down the adoption route or whatever, it must be pretty heartbreaking to see people take it that way. It's why people need to take this issue so seriously. It's like prevention, not cure, right? So like I said before, it's just if people use contraception wisely and only really try for a baby when they absolutely know that it's going to be, that it's time to have a baby and that they are willing to actually live up to the responsibility, then great. I mean, I know that life isn't always as cut and dry, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, but exactly, completely agree, and that's, I think, what's fighting between my heart and my head. My heart is saying I could have that child, and I apologize if this sounds offensive, but I'm definitely going to play a devil's advocate with myself, even here I'm struggling with it. Is if this woman even carried the child to term, gave birth, I'd be happy to take the child myself. They wouldn't have to raise it. But at the same time, it's like, but then the woman has to go through that, and just to go through with having this pregnancy that she doesn't necessarily want. Sorry, just go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to add to that. I think that's true, which is why, like, it's still such a huge thing. Like when people, for example, use a surrogate and stuff, like it's still such a major thing that that the surrogate has to go through, and basically to actually give birth to a child and stuff is just I don't know, it's just I think it's a wonderful thing that people actually say, like, or offer that and say, look, I will carry the child for you. I think that's such an amazing thing to actually do, and I certainly wouldn't do it, like I said, but oh, gosh, shut up. I thought I was but I think it's a wonderful thing that it's kind of available. But I also, surely it would be like after the birth, it would be kind of weird to be like, right, I've got my baby now, bye. Which is, I think, why so many families, when it comes to surrogate mothers, they often have a really close relationship with the surrogate mother. So like often
Yes.
you'll find families who have like the surrogate mother as a godmother and like a really close family friend and stuff, which I think is brilliant. We're getting behind on comments. So do you want to carry on working through them, and I will just be back in 1 second.
Yeah, no problems at all. Okay, so Skylar says, however, big on contraceptives. I believe you should use protection, and when you're ready to parent, then go for it. Yes, absolutely. Obviously, know what you are doing. If there are children out there or younger people out there that are, looking at exploring their sexuality, definitely I would advise you use protection, but I do completely agree there, Skylar. When you are ready to parent, absolutely go for it. Sarah has a great quote. She's written, "Don't be silly, wrap your willy." I like that, Sarah. I like that a lot. Skylar says, as Angels has picked up, in the US, I believe it's 24 to 26 weeks. Yep, we picked that up before. Marissa says, going from what Skylar is saying, I do feel that abortion shouldn't be legal in a mother who is more than 20 weeks, because at 22 or so weeks, many babies are born and live. In my opinion, they should wait and deliver. Yeah, definitely. Very interesting to hear all of your opinions on this topic today. Absolutely. It's very tough, as I say, and I'm probably going to keep saying this throughout this broadcast. So just, a heads up to everyone, being a guy and having my opinion when it is the woman that is carrying the child, I think it's tough to sort of sit here and say, I expect a woman to do this, that, and the other. I think everyone here on comment below let me know knows how much of a feminist I am. But I understand what you're saying. Like, if the child is considered to be, alive, then yeah, it's very. I would have to say I would agree with you, particularly if there's no actual issue with the child. Because again, if there are medical issues, or if there's something wrong with the child, potentially could be wrong with the mother. If the mother's a rape victim, different story. But under normal circumstances, I would actually completely agree. Just while we're waiting for Angels to come back, I'll look at the next comment. Skylar says, yeah, everyone has different beliefs on what the on when the life starts, but I think in the field of science and medical stuff, the answer should be what's scientifically proven, not what is religiously believed. Yeah, I mean, so we are stating our opinions here, and I would agree on that with that myself. Yeah, short answer there. I actually agree with you, Skylar. It should come down to the scientific side of it. Absolutely. Sarah says, I cannot imagine the mental battle a woman may go through to make such a difficult choice. Some do it without thought or care, but many do struggle massively with the decision, which is quite heartbreaking, and they don't need extra judgment on top. Yeah, completely agree. I think at the end of the day, it's a massive decision. This is something that I've found out quite recently, that it is a massive decision. It's not like these women are just getting pregnant saying, okay, I'm just going to abort it, on a dime. Definitely, it's a massive, massive decision. The last thing they need to is to be judged for it. So I completely agree with you there, Sarah. Sarah's also agreeing with Skylar, and what I was agreeing with Skylar with earlier as well, saying, yeah, I don't think religion needs to be brought into it. Absolutely. I've said many times my feelings on the church, the separation of church and state, and I think at the end of the day, religion should just stay with religion. When it comes to things outside of religion, in this case, abortion, pregnancy, childbirth, I definitely agree. It should definitely come down to the science and not to the religion. It's no disrespect to the religion, but both of those things have their own place in this situation.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly jump in there. We've been on streams in the past and talking on the political scene. You have some politicians that also have a faith, but I don't believe that the faith should play a part in the way that they vote when it comes to civil liberties and equal rights. So I absolutely agree with you. I think that the church and the state should be two different things, and I don't personally believe that certainly something as a big deal and as contentious as, you know, the women's right to actually choose when it comes to termination should be in any way linked to like religion, whether it's their own or other people's. So yeah, I'm with that 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a time and place for it. But I'll go into more of a religion / state thing, maybe in another social issue. But yeah, definitely completely agree with that there. Sarah says the comment definitely was more in relation to women who choose not to use protection and simply use abortion as their protection because they can. But I certainly agree that I still stick to the notion that a woman should have a right to their body and choices. So Sarah, yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, I'm gonna full on come out and say that there is definitely a difference between a woman choosing to abort a child because of a myriad of issues related to it, and a woman who chooses to abort a child simply because they can do it in the first place. And that is something that I personally don't agree with myself. Obviously, who am I to say what a woman can and can't do? But I mean, if you're just doing it just because you know it's an option, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. But I'd love to hand over to Angels for that one. Being that you are a woman, Angels, what's your opinion on that, in the fact of if a woman just chooses to do it because they can?
Well, in my opinion, that would be really like very, very, very much a minority of people. I don't think I've ever met someone who would just do it for fun because it's like their method of contraception. I mean, it's a horrendous choice to make, regardless who you are and in what kind of scenario. So I don't think that the majority of people would do that. There are individuals who do, and in that sense, I think it's utterly wrong as far as, but again, that's my opinion. If somebody says, well, look, I never want to use contraception, I'd rather have serial abortions. First of all, that's actually not, well, first of all, that's medically ridiculous because it's actually putting your life on the line, because it's still a major surgical procedure. Whatever way you look at it, even if you take the moral thing out of it and you look at it as like a medical thing, we know that there are links between multiple abortions and women's ability to conceive. So like I said, I don't think that really happens as a general rule, but when it does, even those 0.001% of or whatever the figure is of people that do that, no, Sarah's right, it's totally wrong, because it's so much easier just to actually take precautions before. I mean, we've all done things that we sort of are sorry about afterwards. So I understand that not everybody plans within an inch of their life every single thing that they do, right? But when it comes to something that big, I do think that, yeah, absolutely, they should take more responsibility sort of beforehand than not have to endure what comes after, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. So good point there, Sarah. Thank you for that. So Marissa's saying something which is very interesting as well. As far as the child being disabled, I feel that their disability should be life-threatening. So if you find your baby has Down syndrome, that is not a reason for late termination. But if you have a baby with something that is almost always fatal after birth, then that should be a late-term decision, as the child will pass either way. Angels, I've got the feeling you have a response to this. I'll let you go.
Yeah, massively. This is something I totally agree with Marissa on, because I saw, I know it's scrolled up a little bit, but she also said, for example, something like Down syndrome, it's not okay to have a late-term termination just because you just want to get rid of somebody who in your view isn't perfect, because that also makes you a bit of a this is why I'm probably gonna be really controversial when I say this, but that's a little bit like ethnic cleansing, because you're basically saying you're not, and I'm talking if it's super late term, so I'm not talking like, you know, within very, very early stages, but if it's like super late term, you suddenly discover that your baby in either your mind or society's mind is not perfect, and so therefore you just want to get rid of it. No, that's not okay when it gets that late. Like, that's awful, because that is a little bit like ethnic cleansing, because it's like, you're not perfect, so therefore let's just get rid of you. And I don't like that, because that is a real slippery slope, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with you. I would, definitely say it is. It's like a cleansing. It's to me, that's definitely not a valid reason just because a child has Down syndrome. No. I don't have much really to add to that, Angels, because I completely agree with what you just said. So, well put.
Yeah, it's just that it was one of the things I felt quite strongly about, and after Marissa had typed about it, I think Ben added something about it depends on the disability, though, which is also absolutely right, because if there was literally like a life-threatening disability, meaning that, first of all, say for example the pregnancy would be super difficult for the mother, but on top of that the child would then suffer from a life-threatening disability that could potentially kill them within a few months or whatever, and that does happen sometimes. I do think that there are exceptions when it comes to that sort of thing, and that is totally down to the individual. That's got to be a desperately painful decision for anyone to make. So I wouldn't be the kind of person to turn around and say, well, they can't do that because that sort of thing is not something I've had to face. And you know, when you're suddenly faced with something like that, people surprise themselves with like the decisions they actually make. So it's a difficult decision to make either way.
Yeah, absolutely. I say I couldn't put it better myself. I know of someone who actually is in a very interesting situation. She has a degenerative disability herself, and she's actually been told by doctors that if she gets pregnant, there's a huge chance that her child will inherit her disability. So she's struggling at the moment with whether or not she wants to have kids. I'd love to hear your opinion on that, Angels, the fact that she's told there's a big chance that her child would inherit her disability because of the nature of her disability. It's hard for her to do everyday things anyway for herself, so it'd be harder for her to take care of a child. Would you consider it a different situation if the adult in question already has a pre-existing disability?
If doctors have, I think we've got quite a lot of comments that we need to catch up on, which we can in like a second. But if the pre-existing condition by doctors has actually really literally been said as like, you know, the child is guaranteed to get this, or there's a very, very high chance, then what I would have always suggested is if she has, you know, the ability to conceive, then maybe do it via, you know, either surrogate or maybe adopt or something like that, if you don't want to take the risk. Really, that's a bit of a how long's a piece of string question, because first of all, it depends on the disability, how debilitating it is, whether there's different stages of it in different people, because some, you know, it's like the vast majority of conditions or disabilities have like a scale of sort of 1 to 10, and very often the people with 1 to 3 of certain conditions can live perfectly normally, whereas, you know, it's really debilitating over 6+ or whatever. So I don't know, it's difficult to actually answer that with like a definitive thing without knowing what it is and whether or not the child is sort of guaranteed to actually get it. But I mean, we're kind of lucky anyway nowadays, as more of a, God, I wish they'd stop yelling. We're kind of lucky nowadays anyway that there is so many options available to people, and there are so many children in this world waiting to be adopted, like wanting a loving home to actually go to. So I think that, you know, who cares if they don't share your DNA, really? Like if you want a child and you want to adopt a child, I personally think that's great. And if I ever want kids, I've always sort of thought about adopting myself. Like it was always like my first port of call, really.
There you go.
So yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
you get back to the comments. I think we've got quite a lot of, which is great that everyone's getting involved.
Yeah, let's try and get through them. Okay, so Skylar says, here's a question for everyone. If doctors can tell you before you give birth if your child will be born with a deficiency or a disability that would affect their life, they could never have a normal life, would you abort? In my opinion, obviously I'm not a woman, but if I was and I was in that situation, I wouldn't myself, but that's because of how much I want to have a child. For me, at the end of the day, I do understand there will be struggles raising a child with a disability, but for me, my child would be my child, so I wouldn't do that. But Angels, what's your opinion? What do you think you'd do?
Okay, I just muted myself because those stupid assholes are like yelling. Right, I'm just quickly reading the comment again. Tell you before birth. Okay. All right. Yeah. So a disability that would affect their life, they could never have a normal life. Would you abort? I personally wouldn't. If it was something that was going to be doable, if it was something that was going to be doable, not only for the kid, but the kid first, basically, because I'm pretty sure that as adults, people can work around things. It's really challenging, and it does require a huge amount of effort, and a huge amount of dedication for the rest of your life. But at the end of the day, if they're your kid and you're that devoted to them, it's really that simple. I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't, but it would also depend, as I said, on the disability. If it was really horrendous and there was maybe a chance of death or severe brain damage to the point that they wouldn't even have a life, then I probably would consider it. But aside from that, no. If I found out, for example, a child that I was carrying had Down syndrome, or something that I could basically live with, or like a disability which means that they could still go through day-to-day life and survive, no, I don't think I would. Yeah.
There you go. So Sarah's saying, for example, if I marry a woman, I would have to experience the same struggle as Francois. Yes, I could get pregnant, but it's still much harder to make it happen. Yeah, absolutely. So it is a tough situation, being in this situation, but yeah.
I feel like it's easier for two women though. Like if you're gay and you're two women, there's like it's quite. I feel like it's a lot simpler than, because like my gay friends who are women have basically had donors who are either people they know or like gone to sort of sperm donors and that kind of thing. But I do feel like with gay couples, when they decide to adopt and stuff, they go through the most ridiculous vetting process, and they'll be the best parents ever, but they just have to, like, even adopting a kid is really difficult. And it's like there are so many kids that need loving homes. It's like, why are these people who obviously would be great parents, like, why are they being vetted so hard? It's kind of ridiculous. So I feel like what Sarah's saying, yeah, is true. Like, obviously, if she ends up marrying a woman, because I know she mentioned that she's bisexual the other day, she does end up marrying a woman. Yeah, sure, it's going to be more difficult than if you're with a guy, but I still feel like, it's a lot easier to have children. God, they're annoying me so much. I still feel like it's a lot easier than, if you're two men in like a gay relationship. It's actually something that I feel really strongly on, gay adoption, and it's something that I've like been on sort of campaigns for and stuff, and doing things for, because I just feel like there are so many children, as I've said previously, that need adopting, whether it's to like any home with any parents. It's like, people should just sort of be, depending on how good they are going to be as parents, it shouldn't just be some ridiculous vetting process when there are plenty of kids being abandoned in everyday life. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly. I completely agree. Yep, so thank you for that comment. Let's keep going. Skylar says, I agree with Angels. I use birth control religiously to prevent pregnancy because I'm not ready, nor do I want one at this point in my life. And while I'm pro-choice, I'm not sure if I'm capable of aborting. Good on you, Skylar. Angels?
Okay, I think I actually I'm so sorry about this.
Sorry.
Beauties of London and the Southeast. But no, I also used to think like Skylar, but as I've grown up and I've seen people sort of go through various things, they've made very surprising decisions according and you know, stuff that they haven't, you know, that they previously didn't think that they could make, and also things that they have sort of come to change their minds on, because the beauty of actually sort of, yeah, I guess getting older is that you actually get wiser as well. So people do have the right to change them, and not everyone does. I mean, some people will stick to it, but there are also other people that change their minds. And I think depending on the situation when it comes to a decision such as that, I know that Skylar absolutely does believe that right now, but you know, could potentially, much like anyone else, it depends on the time in their life, the situation in which it is. It's such a major decision that you sort of don't know until you get there. Because I was quite like that too, and I think like a lot of my friends were as well. So yeah.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan through the comments. If there's something that's been brought up, I'm going to move on to something new, just because we have a lot of comments coming in. But Marissa brings up a great point. She says a surrogate generally gets paid around 25K plus, where adoption, you foot your own costs and needs. One is essentially a job. The other is giving up a child that is yours. I like that you bring up the point about giving up the child that is yours, because with adoption, if I were to adopt, the risk that adoption carries, fostering carries, is that I could lose a child that I'm fostering. But yeah, sorry, I've just completely lost where I was going with that. Yes, one is a job, and the other one is, yeah, just giving it up. You're absolutely right. Angels, your opinion on surrogacy versus adoption?
Okay, so I'm always more for adopting kids who are already, because there are so many children that need good homes anyway. Like, you know, my stance on that, rather than bringing a child into the world. But my view on surrogacy, if you know, couples decide to employ a surrogate, it's not necessarily the surrogate's child, though, is it? I thought it was that it could be an egg from the woman, like say it's a male female couple, and it's like an egg from the woman and a sperm from the man that's in vitro fertilized in a lab and then implanted into a womb. So it's not necessarily the carrier's child, as far as I'm aware.
Correct. Yeah.
I think sometimes it is the carrier's child. Like if say, for example, you know, a woman is not producing eggs or whatever, I think sometimes it is the carrier's child, in which case, yes, it would be their child. But I agree with Marissa in the way that even if it's not like your child by like the actual egg itself, like by scientific means, surely by going through the whole process, like 9 months of no booze and puffy ankles, like I mentioned earlier, and like all of this, like having to actually go through all that and then having to sort of give birth and then just to not have a kid at the end of it must be, I don't even care about the money, surely that must be like a big deal. It's what I've always found it quite a huge issue. Like, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, really. I mean, I suppose it's their choice, but yeah, I don't know how I'd feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I think it definitely comes down to the situation, but yeah, completely agree. So President A has brought up something interesting. President A says, I agree abortion is the last option. I'm putting myself out there due to a medical condition. I can't father a kid. If I find the right partner, I'm willing to look into adoption. So obviously that must have been a tough decision for you, President A. But thank you for putting that out there. Angels, do you have a quick comment on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's absolutely brilliant. And if more people thought that way, there wouldn't be as many kids needing sort of decent, stable homes, really. So that's brilliant. And it's also quite brave of you to come out and say, you know, I'm not able to father a kid. Fine. You know, it's fine. It happens to a hell of a lot of people. There are also people who, you know, can't for some reason have kids. Who are female, so it's the same kind of thing. But I do believe that more people should look into adoption as more of a mainstream thing anyway. It's also, by the way, one of the reasons why I think that the Fosters is really good, because it highlights the need for like the fostering of young individuals who basically need loving homes and need that sort of influence in their life.
Yeah, absolutely, completely agree. So yeah, definitely thank you for that, President A. It's very brave of you, and to tell us to come out and say that. Thank you, and good on you for making that decision. I'm trying to get through these as quickly as I can, everyone. I do apologise about the delay. Sarah's making a point about the morning after pill. It's a very good point. She says. I had to escort a friend to a chemist, or as in America you would say a pharmacist, after not using protection, and she was a teenager. Angels, a quick comment on the morning after pill.
Yeah, the morning after pill does not actually work sometimes, so it's a really dicey thing to take. But obviously, the sooner you can take it after unprotected sex, the better. But there's no guarantee that it's actually going to work because it depends on how quickly the egg is fertilized. If the egg's already fertilized and you take it, it doesn't matter. But if it's sort of at that, like sort of at the in-between phase, why they say take it as soon as you can, but I think it's up to 72 hours. But again, there's no guarantee. And it's also a huge sort of injection of crazy hormones. So, yeah, wrap up, kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes people just don't know or don't have enough information. Skylar brings up a great point. She says, my mum has had a few abortions, and I think it's mainly because of her lack of knowledge on contraceptives. In certain areas in the US, I've come to realize there's a lack of teaching people about it. I don't think that's just in the US, but I definitely think it is very important to teach people about it very quickly. When I was in year 8, we were starting to learn all about sexual education in high school, and I will never forget a few kids mucked up in the class, and the teacher made a decision, right, that's it, we're not teaching you sex ed. I was quite appalled when she made that decision, because it meant that we weren't going to learn about it in that class. Angels, what's your opinion on this?
Okay, I feel really strongly about this, and I've actually been on. I've done like petitions, and because I want sex education to be taught from like 13, 14 onwards. Even that's too late, really. It should go on from about 12, I'd say. Certainly before secondary school, I think. Because especially since things are getting sort of younger and younger, and I don't think it should be as taboo in places like sex exists, everyone knows how babies are made, like, and you certainly do by that age, so it shouldn't be something that we're all kind of like, oh my god, we can't talk. No, that's what leads to a shocking rate of teenage pregnancy and stuff, because nobody talks about it. Like if you talk about it and you actually make sure that people are prepared, and that you teach about contraceptives. And Skylar makes a really good point. Like, I think that she's right. Like, her mum probably has not had the same kind of education about contraceptives and stuff. I think that happens all over the world, and I do think it's something that needs to be worked on. I've always said, as I mentioned, it should really be taught in schools, just as a part of the bog standard syllabus. Doesn't matter where you're from. I think that it should definitely be taught, and I actually think too that would then be a prevention, not cure measure for later on. I think that would help when it came to teenage pregnancy and STIs and lots of other stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. I completely agree with you. It is so very, very important, and definitely needs to be taught in schools, and certainly, as you're saying, sometimes even younger than when they were starting to teach me. So I agree with that. Sarah was just continuing on with what she was saying before, saying I had to ask all the questions for this person that she was getting the morning after pill for, because she was scared, and Sarah was happy to help out. I think that's really good that you were able to be there for her, Sarah. Thank you, and I'm sure she thanks you for that too. Angels, we have a very interesting point that Ben is making. Ben says, I wouldn't agree with the idea that it's ethnic cleansing, Angels. It's more about having to deal with the stress and troubles of having to care for a severely ill person from birth to death.
I like how you elect me to start debating, Ben, by the way. So thanks for that. No, I know what you're saying. I think maybe when I said ethnic cleansing, it was a bit of a strong sort of term for it, but you see what I'm saying. Yes, there's huge stress, and I know parents of severely disabled. Actually, my dad's cousin, who we are still close to, is now in a home actually, because my dad's aunt, my great aunt, died and could no longer take care of her. Is still severely disabled and in a home. She was a total, she was absolutely adored, and still is, but yeah, it's so much work that I would have. She's so severely disabled that she cannot do anything by herself, as in she literally can't. Like, she gets like mental stimulation. You can see that she's thinking and she responds to certain stuff, but she can't speak. You know, she can't go to the toilet by herself. She can't like eat, feed herself. She can't, like, nothing like that. So I understand what Ben's saying, but at the same time, I do think that certain conditions, when it comes to, for example, if they say, look, your child is well, except they are going to have Down syndrome or something. I don't like the fact that they're like, oh, well, this kid's not perfect, so fine. But no, I agree with him. If it's about like severe disability, I think that's probably a big deal. And I don't think there's a right or wrong with that. I think it would just really depend on A, what it was, and B, what the couple thought, or the amount of time that they could actually look after them. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Well, there you go. Thank you, Ben, for that. Marissa's saying that she feels the same way, that you're saying you are cleansing society and it's not right. By the time these genetic tests are done in pregnancy, most pregnancies are near viability and someone would adopt preemies. So thank you for that, Marissa. And Ben is saying, what happens if that person outlives the parents? I think that is a good point as well, Ben. But yeah, definitely. It does come down to the situation for sure, as Angels was saying. Sarah's saying, I love for the most part that all of us on comment below and let me know are open-minded individuals. I would have to agree with that, Sarah. I think that's a big part of the reason why we can do these social issues chats and speak our mind. We are open-minded, we are non-judgmental, we have our own opinions, but we're not going to blast anyone for having their own opinions, and it is a very accepting and safe space here at Comment Below and Let Me Know, and I do like that. Marissa says, my thoughts on a degenerative disability passing down is really a question, do you regret your mum having you? Very interesting, Marissa, especially when you are an adult and are only beginning to feel those effects. Angels, any comment from you on that one?
Yeah, I was just trying to make the table next to me stop shouting. Sorry, could you just say that again?
Absolutely, I can. Marissa says, my thoughts on a degenerative disability passing down is really a question, do you regret your mum having you, especially when you are an adult and are only beginning to feel those effects?
Yeah, we are going to do like a general hangout really shortly. We'll like get everyone in. By the way, I just saw Skylar's comment, but
thank you for commenting on that. Yeah.
Marissa said, my thoughts on a degenerative. Yeah, that again, I feel like all of these are really quite difficult to give like sort of blanket, sort of black, white, yes, no answers to, because it really depends on what it is. Like say, I don't know, like we know somebody, for example, my family knows somebody who suffers from MS, so multiple sclerosis, which is obviously a sort of it's a muscle wasting disorder, isn't it? And they slowly but surely lose the use of various things. And it is terrible, and very often then they'll just lose the ability to swallow. They just end up in like a vegetative state at its worst, and that kind of thing. But then on the flip side, there are people, like we know a friend who actually doesn't live far away from my parents, who has been diagnosed for something like 40 odd years, but because it hasn't advanced quickly, she's basically having like a normal life. So she'll probably die of something else before MS kills her. So I mean, I don't know. How could you say that? Like, you would, it would, yeah, I don't know about the whole degenerative thing, because it totally depends case by case, like MS or Parkinson's, or, you know, those types of things. Because on a scale of 1 to 10, they can be from 1 to 10, but on top of that, they can also advance from 1 to 10 much quicker in certain individuals. So, and there's no guarantee that they wouldn't. So I don't know whether that's an abortion question. If you knew that a kid would get a degenerative disease, would you abort? Again, totally depends on the parent. I'm not sure that I necessarily would. It would depend for me, but I'm not sure that a lot of disabilities I would abort for, especially if I was sort of, you know, like late term.
Yeah. Definitely. And no, I see what it is that you're saying. However, with my friend's case, my part of her disability, she has a couple of disabilities, but part of the degenerative side is that she went from being able to walk, and in the space of 30 years, she now needs to use a scooter to get around. She can hardly walk. She needs a walking frame to walk around her house. So she has to take herself into consideration if she can raise the child, as well as the child going through what she went through. And it was a major struggle for her. But I completely agree with what you're saying, Angels. It does come down to the situation. I do want to echo what Angels is saying. We will have a general hangout in a moment. I can see there are a few of you that want to get on. Yes, Skylar, I agree. Lady Jazz, lol, the struggle is real for sure. We'll get to that in a moment. For now, I just want to address some more comments, and then we'll get to that. Chocolate Fact Hunter makes an interesting statement saying that Justin Bieber's mum wanted to abort, but by not aborting, look at the talent we got. I'm not so sure how I feel about that, though.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that I would have used Einstein as a better example, but there we go. Whatever. If you love the Biebs, we love the Biebs.
Yeah. No, but go ahead. Einstein's a great example. Okay.
If you're here,
yeah,
in half an hour,
yeah,
you're going to get
All
something.
right, I think I'll continue.
Am I? Well, thank you very much.
With what I'm saying here. So
hopefully not a Guinness. Sorry.
Ben, you're good. Ben is saying, never thought I would see Justin Bieber and talent in the same sentence before. Good one, Ben. So yeah, we have a few discussions there about it. Ben continuing to say that his mum did the right thing. Nothing wrong with Justin Bieber as a person. So we've got some interesting discussions about Justin Bieber. I'm going to try and move through those. Marissa says most surrogacy agencies require the woman already has at least one child before they allow them to be a surrogate for those more emotional aspects, as you can't just guess how you will feel handing the child over to its biological parents. Yeah, definitely, and that's certainly an issue that comes up between surrogate parents and those who are looking to take the child. So for sure, I think that's a very good point that you're making there, Marissa. Angels, you can certainly come back when you're ready. Are you free now or no?
Yeah, it's just some guy like going, if you're still here in like 5 minutes, I'm going to come back and buy you a drink. I was like, are you? Okay, great. But then I saw him drinking Guinness, and I was like, hopefully not a Guinness though. And then he, yeah, I just added in the comments. It's always nice to be hit on and like outside the pub while someone hang out or like a live chat. Great. Carry on. We still have to address the comments, and then we'll do the hangout, and then that'll be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So very good point there, Marissa, and I completely agree with you. Sarah's saying she needs to head off soon and sleep some, so that's not a problem at all, Sarah. Over in Australia, it is 12:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time in the morning. Thank you for being here, Sarah. We really do appreciate it. We are catching up, which is good. All right, Angels, we have another one here from Marissa. We'll quickly take this one. She says, I took the morning pill 12 hours after and did not end up having the bleeding, etc., and did get pregnant as a result. They started sex education here in about grade 1 with anatomy and working out to how a baby is made in about grade 3, and then protection and so on as the kids get closer to that age. So 2 separate issues there, the morning after pill and as well as the education, and your thoughts on that just quickly.
Morning after pill, yeah, like I said, doesn't always work. I have taken the morning after pill before, and it has actually worked, but I know people that it hasn't worked for. I like the hang-ups I have about that kind of links into the whole contraceptive pill idea, is it messes with so many different hormones. I don't think that we yet know what repercussions there are, if any. So I think, like, I'm just waiting for studies down the line. It's a bit like when they linked, because the pill was only widespread and only widely used like in the 60s, right? So they still really don't know, like, in as far as a matter of time and studies and things, that's really, really recent. So they still don't actually know what repercussions there are, if any. They still don't, you know, solidly know whether there is a link to breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and various other things in women. I think they pretty much know that it often leads to hypertension and blood pressure rise, blood pressure rising, hypertension, fluid retention, a few other bits, and basically just being an absolute moody bitch. So give me a thumbs up if you agree, any ladies on here that have taken the pill before. Yeah, I think that all that kind of happens, but like I said, I think the long-term thing when it comes to the morning after pill and the pill as a whole, we don't quite know yet. So I'd rather just, like I said, like Skylar said, really, prevention not cure, just be careful and try to avoid that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And yeah, just quickly, so on the sex education, actually, Marissa's saying, so over where she is in Canada, they start sex education in grade 1 with the anatomy, and then work up to how a baby is made in about grade 3, and then protection and so on as the kids get closer to the age. Marissa, before Angels gives her view, I just want to say that's absolutely fantastic. I don't think you're ever too young to start learning about it. Obviously, we know with teen pregnancies and such alike that children are having sex at younger and younger ages. So I think that's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, Angels, starting with grade 1 with anatomy and then working up to how baby is made in about grade 3. What do you think?
Okay, grade 1 is what age?
I don't know. What age is
like
he?
like 5 or 6 or something. Like really, really small.
Yeah.
Okay. I think maybe not at that age, but I'd say maybe 8 plus. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that children need to be much more capable of critical thinking. Whereas when they're still like wetting themselves and they don't even know like what color to use on a paintbrush and stuff, I'm thinking, well, they're not going to retain it anyway. So maybe, I would say like 8 plus. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'm all for them learning it earlier. Like I've always been for sex education in schools. I don't think it's actually put across enough. And like I said, I think it will slash teenage pregnancy and various other like STIs and other kind of related issues to that if people had a better knowledge overall.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think I like that Marissa's making the point that in grade 1 they just start with the anatomy. That once they get to 8, that's when they start talking about protection. But yeah, so I think that's pretty cool. Very quickly, Ben is saying, I love this. So wait, Angels, you're telling me that the stork doesn't bring children to your door?
Well, you know, I'm so sorry that I had to shatter his illusion, but he does live up north, so you've got to forgive him. I'm sorry to shatter your illusion, Ben, but I'll send you a book.
Good one. Skylar's saying something about she says, I've used it once prior to getting on the VC pill. I'm guessing you're talking about the morning after pills that we're talking about, but it worked for me. Here in the US, you have a health class in junior high. Fantastic. But even with that, health classes are taken seriously. And I think that is the point at the end of the day, that they do need to be taken seriously for sure. It looks like we have either caught up or we are very, very close to catching up, which is really good. And just quickly, Marissa's saying, I believe the Netherlands teaches it starting in preschool, and they teach it from the perspective of self-respect and love.
Angels. They do. Yeah, they do. But they're very progressive when it comes to lots of different factors when it comes to that in education. So I feel like I think they were the first. Ben he's like crazy talented when it comes to remembering like historical facts about laws passed and stuff. But I believe that they were the first country to legalize, for example, equal marriage, and or certainly one of them. And they're always quite progressive when it comes to certain issues like social issues and teaching them in schools and cluing up kids and that sort of thing. And it's actually quite good as well, because what it actually has done is that their teen pregnancy, for example, is massively lower head to head than the UK, who doesn't teach sex education sometimes at all, but at other times, like in my view, far too late. So yeah, I think that's really cool. Like that's why I like Holland. It's sort of one step forward, I think.
Yes, absolutely. It'd be great to have a chat one day about like all the things that Holland has progressed in.
Yeah. I can actually host it from Amsterdam. It'd be great.
Oh, that would be awesome. Definitely something that we should look into doing. All right, so it looks like we have caught up. Oh, wait, hang on. Sarah has just put a comment in, so thank you, Sarah. Whilst we are on this, we need more sexual education for gay/homosexuality and safe sex in regards to that. I know we are talking about pregnancy and abortion, but still. No, Sarah, look, I will comment on that very quickly. We definitely don't cater towards the gay homosexual side of things when it comes to sex ed, and we definitely have to do that. One of the great things, we were talking earlier on about the Fosters. They brought that up as an issue, so I think that was fantastic to watch what they were showing there. It's definitely something that we need to do for the gay people out there, for sure. Angels, I'd love to get your opinion on that.
Yeah, I think I'm absolutely in agreement. I just think that when they're when I say sex education, I mean sex education as a blanket thing. We need to make sure that we discuss sex education when it comes to gay sex. We need to sort of talk about it when it comes to straight sex and everything else kind of in between, because at the end of the day, it's like a practical way as well of literally people protecting themselves. Like, even if you take pregnancy out of the equation, like STIs are so easy to actually pick up. That people need to kind of know, and they need to be clued up early. But more still, I agree with Marissa. It needs to be taught early, because when kids get to about sort of 12 plus, or they're just about to hit puberty or whatever, they get all embarrassed talking about stuff, and they won't like discuss things. Yeah. Whereas that is the worst thing that they can possibly do. Like they need to be open to actually talk about it, because the moment that you end up talking about it and it becomes normal, people actually understand it and they don't feel embarrassed. They can be much more open about it, and they can actually get and accept better feedback, and therefore are less likely to make stupid sort of choices.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, because Skylar's basically saying something about this. She says it's weird. I disagree with children learning about sexual stuff prior to 11 and 12. I mean, I get now times are changing, but I don't know. Talking to a kid about sex at 10 is weird, and kids are squeamish.
Yeah, well, they are, but I think I feel like they're even worse as they're approaching puberty. I think we've got some smart ass comment back from Ben, because he's such a history buff. He's probably right, but what I mean is, in more modern history, you know exactly what I mean. You're just doing that to troll me. Next comment.
You can read out the next one if you mind.
Is this Skylar's? Wait, I think they're all just whizzing past.
Yes, they are, aren't they?
Was it weird I disagree with children learning about sexuality? So you've already read that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
About that age, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of the kids in school here are dating and showing interest around 11, 12. And at awkward stages, they hit puberty. Yeah. You see, that was my exact point. I agree with Marissa that once, I think that's too late. Yeah, I think that maybe 8 onwards is probably better, but when they can still soak it up. So not whilst they're sort of too young to appreciate the whole thing, but like old enough to actually take it on board and maybe store it in their little brains. Skylar, I can understand that, but some girls are starting to develop and get their period at 8 or 9 in some cases, says Sarah, and with the rate kids are developing these days, I'd say it needs to happen earlier. That's actually true. I mean, my friend's daughter, for example, she is now, well, she's now about 17 or something, but 17, 18, but she was like a really early developer. She started like, she needed a bra early, and like she sort of started her periods, I think at like 9 or 10, like really super early. So, and yeah, there are other people, like one of my friends who didn't really develop anything. She was basically like just like a stick until she was about sort of 16, 17. So I think it depends, but you're right. I would say critical thinking plus, so like 8 plus, in my view, is a healthy age to start learning about the way things work, and you know, not necessarily believing, as Ben does in his northern fishbowl, that babies are put on doorsteps by storks.
Yep.
All right, you can take the next comment.
So Marissa says, lol, the kids in grade 7 who are age 12 have nicknamed the class Banana or Banana, wherever you're from class. I love that. But I mean, you know, I think at the end of the day, as long as it is being treated seriously, I don't mind that they name it that. But yeah, definitely, I agree with what's being said so far. And President A is saying, when I was 12, I had a friend who had a baby at age 12. Now the kid just finished university, so sex ed should be done earlier. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing. I mean, kids, as we've been discussing generally throughout this conversation, kids are experiencing things at younger and younger ages. But look, I mean, I would agree with what Angels is saying, that there is, you need to wait for them to be able to physically understand what's going on. So I do agree with that. But so I would say, as you said, maybe start talking about it around 8, 9 years of age, but you wouldn't want to go too much earlier. I have a niece at the moment who is 6, and I don't know how it would be like, having her do a sex ed class. I just, don't think that she would be, just even in her mind, mature enough to understand everything. So I get where we're coming from there. And Sarah says, Francois, did we do the banana and condom thing here in Australia? I don't think we did that in sex ed here. Well, Sarah, interesting that you say that. So as I said, in year 8, they cancelled the sex ed because there are a few people that were being immature. I had quite a few discussions with educators and even the principal to ensure it would happen in year 9, and thank goodness it did. And all the kids that were being immature were kicked out of the class, but that's another issue altogether. There was a day when I was sick. I came back the next day and everyone said we finally put the condom on the banana. So it did happen, but unfortunately I missed that class. I wasn't there for that one. That's actually a good point.
That's a real shame. Yeah, I just wanted to input that, and that's a real shame that you missed it, because me, true to form, they go, can we just have a volunteer who's not embarrassed to come up here? I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So I stood up in the middle of class, sure, I'll put the condom on the banana, no problem, put it on like a pro, and they were like, great. And like it actually, but what was good about it was the fact that it stopped people from sniggering and getting all embarrassed. So then once like the ice was broken, kind of thing, people I think listened like a lot more, and then other kids started to get involved, and they would like discuss things, and they would like give you scenarios, and kids would have to like do many role plays as to what happens when somebody instigates sex and you don't want it, and when somebody's not agreeing and that kind of thing. So actually it brought it off to a good start. Whilst at first I was doing it just for a laugh, and because I wasn't embarrassed, it was actually quite good, because I think it, like I said, it kind of broke the walls down, and people started talking more, and after that was great. But I still think that was too late, because that was near so I left that school just before A levels, so that was like 15, 16. That's too late, like especially nowadays. Kids are already sexually active by then.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting, like speaking of like sex classes, but also speaking of the topic here, which is abortion. There are classes that are done for, like, I know that they take place in America. They probably do in the UK as well, and we have them in Australia. Sort of like child or parenting experience classes. I don't know what you call them, but in America, they have classes where kids will take a bag of rice home, for example, and look after it as though it's their kid. And some will actually have a real mechanical doll that cries and does all these things, so you can have the experience of having a child. I was actually looking forward to taking that class, and then I found out that they did offer that class at my school as an elective that was under a different name that I didn't take. So I unfortunately didn't get to go through that process, and I really wanted to. But do they offer that? Did they offer that at your school, and did you end up being able to take advantage of that, Angels?
No, and if they did offer it, I'd rather kill myself than actually take it. Like, because you get all the crap parts of having a baby without actually having the baby. So basically, you get all of the shit parts of it crying and crapping its nappy and stuff, and desperately wanting to be fed. And you can't even take like cute photos of it and post endless ones on Facebook. No, just no. I think I'd rather watch the PLL finale on like a loop.
I think that definitely says something. For sure. Marissa says, when I was 12, I was with a boy about 2 years older, so the peer pressure and self-education was also there. But again, like it shows like younger and younger ages. President A is saying that they didn't do the condom on the banana either. Where he was from, it was all theory. I will say, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I didn't remember where President A is from. Is he from Australia as well?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So they didn't do it in his school either. But sorry, carry on.
No, that's okay. So President A, Sarah, and myself, we're all from Australia, but we're all from separate states in Australia. So it's very interesting. But yeah, he's saying that they had, basically it was all theory. And for the majority of what we had as well, the majority of it was theory also. We didn't even have like a Q&A session or anything like, you know, put an anonymous question into a fishbowl and have it drawn out by a teacher. None of that. It was very much dry and theoretical, and probably not the best way to go about it, but it makes a very good point. So yeah, just going to scroll down. So Marissa's saying it's generally up to the teacher and how they can stay composed with a bunch of kids who are thinking it's hilarious. Here now the teacher does the demonstration because the bananas got eaten. There you go. But yeah, no, I completely agree that it would come down to how the educators can deal with it. I mean, it is very important that the students learn this. And as I say, you know, when I was in year 8, when those kids in the class were acting up, we unfortunately, you know, the whole sex education experience was sacrificed. I think there needs to be rules put in place and ways to deal with it. Not that those disruptive kids should necessarily miss out, because everyone needs to learn it, but there should be a way to deal with it. Angels, would you have any suggestions on how to deal with that situation if it came up?
You mean kids acting out in sex ed class? Or?
Yeah.
I think kids are much like men, are quite simple beings, really. I think once you just smash through the surface, and you basically you need to smash through the embarrassment. The moment you give them no ammo, like the moment you just blatantly start talking about things, they just smash through what they're trying to find funny or amusing or poking fun at. That actually people get down to business. Like I think kids are much like that. I do think that it just requires some balls, if you like, to turn around and be like, look, this is so stupid. Are we talking about this? Is that what you're kind of laughing at? And if you're that blunt with them, they often are like, yeah, and they don't quite know how to kind of take it. And it's a bit like the that we were talking about before. Kids can also be absolute bullies, but if you take away their ammo, you realize they're just kids. Like, they've got nothing on anyone. They're just doing it because that's kids. You know what I mean? You just have to smash through that initial bit, and then I think you're home and dry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, especially I think as a teacher, if you're willing to do that and then sort of have a laugh with them in the process, you then become the young, cool teacher, which is great because they actually then start listening to you. So I think, yeah.
Oh, very good. All right, so what we'll do, we've got some more comments. We'll take a few more, and then I think we'll head over to inviting people if they want to come in and join the Hangouts, because I would like to wrap this up at about 1:30, which is just about 37 minutes away. Unless there's anything you wanted to add, Angels, before I go back to the last couple of comments?
No, I think you can get to the comment by yourself, which has just really made me laugh. Fair enough. I mean, I was talking about being upfront. You know what I
mean? Yes, and I took your advice. Okay, I'll continue on.
Also, that's a little bit optimistic. 10 inches, really? Okay. Sorry, moving on.
Comment below and let me know the place you'll always have a good laugh. So Skylar says, haha, angels, I don't remember in health ever learning how to put one on, a condom, on a banana. We watch films about STDs and Plan B. So there you go. And I always wanted a rice or flour baby, but in school that was not offered. I've only ever seen that on TV. Yeah, which is really unfortunate. So yeah, we did have it in high school for those people who were doing that election that it coincided in. So it wasn't like it was called a parenting class or anything like that. It was just a standard class, and it came up in that class. So yeah, it was disappointing, but I can understand what you're saying about always having wanted to experience it, because I did too. Marissa says it's a shame that they sort of treated it more as a scare tactic with STDs and then told you that if you needed to go to Plan B instead of genuinely teaching you all safety and respect and how to do things the best way before you ever had to get to Plan B. I'll quickly get a comment from Angels on that, and then we'll go into the chat. But before I do, Sarah, in case you are still here, Sarah says she had to say goodnight to everyone, but she wishes she could join the Hangouts, but she's too tired. Thank you for being here, Sarah. We really do appreciate it. Angels, over to you.
Yeah, so we're talking about STDs and Plan B. Sorry, I just can't get the two blue 10 inches out of my head. It's a shame they sort of treated it more like a scare tactic. Yeah. You see, I don't think that. I think it should be sort of part and parcel of looking after yourself in like a healthy fashion. So I don't think that it should be run as, to coin a phrase, Project Fear, as Brexit lovers like Ben like to use. But it's. Yeah, I think it should be incorporated into like a general health thing. So I think Skylar's right. I think she also, I just scrolled down a little bit, and she said that she has no problem with the anatomy being taught, like the anatomy and how to keep yourself generally healthy, and then sex ed on top of that. I think that builds a really good foundation to actually make people listen, because they've already been taught, how to look after themselves as a general thing, and then they learn about STDs and stuff. It shouldn't put the fear of God into them. They just need to know how to prevent it, and it's relatively easy. Yeah. So I think if it then starts from there and then sex ed builds on top, I think that people are more likely to listen, and B, I think it's just more effective, because it teaches you the whole picture, as opposed to just this little one thing that people are going to get all embarrassed speaking about.
Yeah.
So I think that answers. Well, Skylar said, I've always wanted a rice or flour baby. What? Why? I mean, are you kidding?
No.
So basically, I mean, yeah, but all it does is give you a tired arm, and you get nothing for it anyway. You can't even. I mean, what are you going to post pictures of, like a packet of rice on Facebook?
No, look, I mean, obviously that's a really good point if it was literally rice or flour. I understand what you're saying. Like, we obviously in Australia had mechanical babies that would cry. They were programmed to cry and, do certain things like business or whatever, and you had to take care of an actual programmed mechanical baby. But yeah, so I get what you're saying there, but I mean, it's just, I think for the sake of the experience, definitely it's one thing to be posing for the sake of Facebook, but I think even with a bag of flour or a bag of rice, I think it's just about like the experience of at least responsibility at that age. I imagine you'd have to keep a journal and stuff like that.
Skylar, you realise that now you actually literally have to take pictures of yourself posing with a bag of rice.
Yes, Skylar, and post it to the comment below and let me know Facebook page.
Yeah, TV made it look cool, Angels. Well, of course, because she was obviously watching something. Skylar can't go 5 minutes without watching something. So.
And I just saw the comment that Ben put up about 10 inches as well, so I finally got why you were laughing. Before we go on and have our little S-talk time or our general talk time, Angels, is there anything else that you wanted to say as a generalization to the topic?
Well, I feel like our topic has gone from abortion to sex ed, but just to take it back to the original topic. I'm glad that we actually had a discussion about it. I feel like it's something that isn't actually talked about enough. And I think that stats, I don't know, Statman Ben might be able to help me, but I believe that it's estimated, because obviously people don't often admit to it, but I believe it's something like 1 in 3 women have had abortions, but it's not speaked about enough in the sense that a lot of people, I guess, feel like they can't speak about it, and therefore, because they don't talk about it, I feel like they, don't necessarily make the best decisions. So I actually, to be fair, this links into sex ed too, because I think that the moment people are more open about discussing stuff like that is actually when they are more capable of critical thinking. They discuss it, they actually think, mull over the topic. It's like a big decision, and then they're like, okay, fine, and they come to their own sort of view. But yeah, I do think that it's a huge, almost like a elephant in the room in our society. I don't think that people talk about it enough. I know plenty of people who have gone through, who have made that decision. So I just feel like we should be less judgmental and should talk about it more. And then whoever wants to make their own decision about it can,
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. It should be talked about more. The fact that everyone, like that it gets suppressed and that it's such a taboo, I don't know, to talk about it. I don't know, I guess being raised in a part Dutch family, nothing was ever really off the table for a discussion.
Exactly. They're really liberal and like open with that kind of thing.
Exactly. I'll never forget studying a counselling course, and I know this is not the topic, but it makes my point, bringing up the topic of euthanasia in my counselling course, mind you, and the teacher turned around and said, oh no, maybe we'll discuss that after class. We don't talk about euthanasia here. Oh,
I mean, what? I mean, they do in Dutch classes, but the thing is, weirdly, like, I'm totally against assisted dying. Totally against it. Yeah, totally. Yeah. But that's only because of my knowledge of mental illness and the effects of depression on how to make critical decisions. Right. So I'm like, I could never forgive myself if somebody was literally under the influence of being desperately down, or like literally mentally ill. Yeah. And making a decision that was wrong for them, that they would have regretted 2 days later, but we wouldn't know because they're not even there. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. No, I get that. That would be a very interesting discussion, actually, assisted suicide. So I just wanted to quickly say thank you to everyone for your opinions on today's topic, which was abortion. As Angels was saying, we've talked about a few things which has been interesting. I think it all sort of just came out of the abortion topic. It all sort of fit in its way. What I will do now, because I am looking at going at 1:30, I will put the link if people want to join Hangouts. If you want to continue commenting on YouTube, that's totally fine. I'll continue to read out comments, and if Angels wants to as well, she certainly can. So if you guys want to join us, go on to the Facebook page for comment below and let me know. And if you go on there, you should see the link appearing, and you can feel free to join us here. While everyone's doing that, I'll see if there are any other comments that are coming on. Ben makes an interesting point. He says, didn't the Netherlands allow euthanasia for children? Is that the case, Angels?
No, as far as I'm aware. I think he might be wrong. So History Boy might actually be wrong for once. And that guy just came back and wants to buy me a pint of Guinness. I'd rather kill myself. And then on from there, unfortunately, even miscarriages are often something. Yeah, you see, this is the same thing. It's even like I feel like that's not talked about either, because one in 3 women have experienced at least one miscarriage, if not several. You honestly bought me a glass of Guinness? Are you kidding?
The gentleman keeps his word.
Well, thank you.
While you're getting that there, Angels, I'll just say hi to the people that have joined us. Skylar and President A have joined us in the room. Hi, Skylar. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. Hi, Angels. I'm President A.
Hi, all. Like, are you fucking joking?
Sorry.
At least he surprised you.
Well, no, he didn't really, because he kind of said it on the way out, came back with like a bag full of shopping, and then just goes, a gentleman keeps his word. I'm like, I don't see no gentleman around here. He goes, Anyway, sorry, I was just reading out Marissa's comment. I just wanted to say this because it's a really important thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Because miscarriages are often something that women feel genuine shame about, and that's actually true. And like I said, because they are so common, I'm getting a work call, by the way. I really have to go. But because they are so common, people should not feel shame about them. You know what I mean? That's my main point being, it's another issue that we need to talk about more. Anyway, I'll hand it over to you for a second. I'll just take my work call. Go back.
No problems. And I'm just going to send a link out to someone. So, Skylar, do you have any opinions that you'd like to add?
Well, in terms of, I think, the abortion, going back to the previous topic, I don't think I have much to add. I'm very much for pro-choice, although I do believe if two parents are involved, they both should be involved in the decision. You know, I think solely it's the woman's decision because it's her body. However, with that being said, I don't think you should exclude like the potential father because then you have a situation like in the Fosters. Jesus wanted the kid, Emma didn't.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that should be like discussed and with between the both of you. And I think matters should be considered like financially. Can we afford this baby? Can we work it into our schedule? Can we it sounds weird, but all these situations matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
But other than that, for me, what differentiates it is I feel like once the kid can have life on its own and it's independent from the mother, then I feel like, I think that's too late to abort. Now, I think for the most part, it can be determined when it is or when it isn't. Don't quote me on that because I'm not sure. But yeah. Then to answer my own question, whether if a doctor can tell you if your child's going to be born with a disability or with a deficiency and if you choose to have it or not, for me I think that's really hard to answer because I have a sister who's disabled and she's nonverbal. She can't do many things on her own, and we don't know when she'll be able to ever do that or if she'll be able to ever do that. So it is very difficult when you're going in knowing that because, alongside my mom raising her, I'm also raising her. I'm with my sisters, most hours of the day when I'm not at work. And like Ben mentioned, you get into the situation if something happens to my parents, God forbid, the person more adequate to take care of her would be me because I know her better than what most people do. You know what I mean? And it's also one of those situations I love my sister, but and love her aside from her disability and all that. She's a wonderful kid, but it does put you in a situation if a day like that ever comes to happen and I'm responsible for her. Can I ever have my own kids knowing I have to raise my sister and having her as having more than one kid because of her stuff. So I think me personally knowing if there's a disability, I know I would love a child whether if I it happens and it happens, but if I knew beforehand I probably would it's everyone don't bash me for it, but I probably wouldn't just because I know how difficult it is going into it.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? I mean for me, if I have a chance, because you also get to the point where even we know this other kid who has a disability and she was also now becoming visually impaired, and she one time she randomly came up to the table because she couldn't connect with other kids and she's like, why am I different? Why do kids not want to play with me? And it's in part it's because other kids don't know how to or understand, but I would feel heartbroken if I had my own child come up to me and say that to me because of their disability they can't have the normal life and long it. I don't think I can. It's hard. It's a very hard decision
Absolutely. Yeah.
knowing beforehand.
You can't judge, and I think everyone is going to make the decision. We absolutely respect that. I'm so sorry to interrupt you there, Skylar. We just have had Dario and Marissa join us here. Dario, hello. Thank you for joining us. You're making me hungry over there.
He looks fabulous. You look fabulous, Dario. And hi, Marissa.
And hello to Marissa.
Hey.
Hey, thank you for joining us. So just quickly, Skylar, if I still have you, we have a response from President A for you. President A
Oh
is
yeah.
saying, I completely agree, Skylar. Both parents should be involved. Only time not is when the woman is sexually assaulted and the woman becomes pregnant. So that's for you, Skylar.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think, both parents should definitely be involved in the decision of whether, adopting or boarding or, putting up a kid, like for an orphanage kind of thing, for adoption. So I think that's both, like, a decision both parents should make. And, like, obviously, if the woman was sexually abused, then, like, I feel like that's so, like, solely her decision. But I also think, like, in cases where, like, for saying, the guy just wants to walk out. Sometimes, some guys are just like, I'm not cool with being a dad at all, and like, then the woman's like, but I kind of want to have a kid. My time clock is running out for me. You get into that situation, you're like, what do you do there, But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for
that
that.
happens,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, President A. And if anyone has any other comments that they want to add, even if they have specific comments for anyone here on our panel, we now have 6 people on the
A
panel
friend,
tonight, which is wonderful.
gotta know if it's just to me.
Sorry? Sorry, Skylar? No? All right, so...
I was going to say, sorry, Francois.
No,
I was
I
going
was
to
actually
say
going to pass over to you, Marissa. Go ahead.
okay. I was going to say, like with Skyla, her sister has autism. And autism isn't even one of the things that you can genetically test for. And that becomes another huge issue when it comes to abortion, because there are certain things they do test for and certain things they don't. And I remember about 8 years ago, they were trying to find the genetic marker for whether or not your child would be predisposed to possibly being gay. Then they realized the repercussions of, well, if we find that, then people are going to start terminating pregnancies based on whether or not their children have this genetic marker.
Yeah, like,
So
I think
it's
that's
sort of
crazy.
like, where does the, like, which medical conditions should be tested for, which ones shouldn't be? It becomes a really, really, really huge moral and ethical thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can see how that can happen. I feel like it's one of those, I feel like what should be tested for is if, for say, you have your child and they cannot, like, independently do things for their own. Like, if you, the parent, die tomorrow, they won't even know. Like, they won't even be
Yeah.
aware. Because, like, my sister, she's not really aware of her surroundings. Like, I think half of the time she is, like, when we call her to attention, but sometimes she isn't. And it happens, like, if, for say, God forbid, my parents and I all go out tomorrow, like, we just all go out and, like, die, God forbid, in a car crash, like, no, like, and even, like, your family members, they'll love your sibling, but like, you also know, like, not everyone knows how to deal with a kid that way. Even though they can be, like, the most loving, kind people in the world, sometimes they just can't handle that amount of responsibility. So I think, what should be tested for is, like, disabilities or, like, deficiencies that can, like,
Yeah.
make, I think, that person not be able to, like, help themselves in the long run, because some autism kids can,
And
you know what I mean? Like, I know some people who had it mild, some people
yeah.
had it, like, really extreme. So,
Well, and
it does
autism is
vary.
something that usually, something like autism is something that usually known about around 18 months older. So there is no test for it prior to that. So that makes it really difficult when deciding, like, should I carry a baby? Because it's a risk no matter what you're doing. And then there's other conditions as well that happen during childbirth itself that can cause extreme mental deficiencies, physical deficiencies, and stuff like that because of lack of oxygen, hemorrhaging, and that sort of thing. So even if you're prepared and you do all of the genetic testing and it's all clear, you could still get a very, very, very handicapped child.
No, I definitely agree. It's weird too with my sister's situation. Like, when she was younger, around 2 or 3, she was verbal. She can say mama,
Yeah.
she can say dada, and then, like, she hit 3, and, like, it completely like stopped. Where it's like we're like, is she like just mute? But it wasn't that. She can make sounds, and so like I definitely know like every situation is definitely different. I feel like if like prior to him, they're what they tell you, like if you give birth, this child might be sickly and might not last too long after birth, or this child can like they might or might not, but like there's no like it's never a definite answer with those kind of things. Like for me, I just feel like I might find it like if I know beforehand, I might find it difficult to make a decision because of the fact it's like knowing what I know. Like I don't want to have to ever leave my child in someone else's care because someone else might not deal with them the way I would. You know what I mean? If they have like a disability like that, knowing that they can't ever like take care of themselves. If there's like a chance that they can live a normal life, then yeah, by all means. But I feel like if my child can like definitely needs like the assistance forever, like it's hard because it's like you run out of people. No one lives forever.
No, exactly. And I've actually met people like adults who have an autistic or a child with really bad Down syndrome, and they have said, like, I am old now and I've been taking care of my child for say 40 years or 50 years, and they're actually like, I've heard mothers say, I hope my child passes before I do. I feel horrible simply because if I pass before them, they will end up in a home and will not be loved, will not be taken care of in the same way that I've done it.
Mm.
So it
Something
is a
that-
long-term decision.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What I kind of contemplated while watching the live stream is, I think that a lot of times that, not all the time, but a lot of times people are thinking that baby making should be less perfect and we have this ideal picture of what it should be. And I feel like sometimes we treat them as if they were a product, something that's been made in some kind of factory, and that we can just throw them away and make new ones. Just to make it very, very blunt and very controversial. I'm sorry. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's nothing existent. There's nothing that exists called a perfect child or a perfect baby. No matter what, no matter how many times you might have. I'm trying to put this the right way. It's a very hard topic to kind of word.
That's okay. Take your time.
If your kid has a disability, if your kid is going to face some kind of problem that they cannot help, or if they can help it for whatever reason you might have for abortions, you also have to think that if your reason is because, oh, this is not going to be a perfect child, in my personal belief, I feel like then you're not going to find success anywhere because you're not going to have the perfect child. That there's still some kind of quality of life that we can measure quality of life from poor to rich. Not anything wealth wise, but poor health and rich wealth that way. I believe that every single thing should have some kind of chance of living out a life. I know the circumstances where it is, I want to say, understandable to do what they do, and I feel like every single woman should have that choice, and it is up to them. And there's also a side of me that says that it's one of those things that the government and a lot of people kind of stick their nose in to kind of dictate of what someone should do. But if we're talking about the actual grit and bones of this, it's about the freedom to make choices, and about freedom, and not being able to strip away that freedom that a lot of people want to do. Although
Hey, by the way, sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I just wanted to say hi. I've just managed to shake him off for a second. You'll probably hear him again in a sec. I cannot believe I actually said that. And I was quite blatant about it too.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, do you want a Guinness? I was like, no, thanks. And he's like, what would you like instead? And I was like, yeah, I'll just have a gift voucher. One that gets me away from you as soon as possible.
That's so funny.
I know, but he carried on though. Like,
I wonder
mean,
how like getting hit on in other places feels, because like in New York you get hit on in the most creepiest. I mean, like I've been hit on in New Orleans, right? And it's very different from getting hit on in like New York. Like in New York you can get hit on, and then like the minute you reject, you'll get like something snappy and mean said back to you. Like when I was in New Orleans, I would get hit on, and like if I wasn't interested, it was like, oh, whatever. They just walked away. Like they didn't.
no, but you
keep
just have to
pushing.
outsmart them. You just have to make them look like a fucking douchebag, and then they just don't care. Like, and
I
I think
know.
that's pretty much international. So, but apparently this guy doesn't take the hint. He actually bought me a mini Guinness, which it turns out is not actually Guinness. It's a shot. So, turns out it's Tia Maria with Baileys on top.
Oh god.
That to me that sounds like a very much of a grandma drink. Tea Maria.
He was like, and he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your conference call." And I was like, "Yeah, don't worry. At least we have more witnesses to show how much of a douchebag you are."
Jeez, Angels, you are too much. I think the most like quirkiest comeback I've ever did was like I was having a shitty morning, and I was walking down the street, and this guy's like, "You're so pretty. Why don't you smile?" And I was like, "Well, why don't you try saying something funny?" And then like I gave him a moment, and like he didn't say anything, and I was like, exactly my point. And then I just kept walking because I was like having such a piss poor morning. But,
Oh, I know. I hate that. It's actually the worst. It's called being female though. Like, to be fair, we do have to put up with all of these fucking morons. And I think that, especially if you're a female that well, actually, even if you're a female that isn't like what I would call like textbook pretty or like attractive or whatever, you just walk down the street, especially if you made a semi effort, and you basically just get gawked at the whole time, and like the car horns going, and like the whistles and all that, like, "Hello darling," and shut up. Like, I get it in Holland the whole time too.
The worst one is when you're like walking, and then like the car drove past you and then drives back and then slows up to your pace of walking. I'm like, no, don't do that. Just go. Now I feel like you're gonna kidnap me and put me in the back of your truck.
Kidnap. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway.
I get that too. Sorry. I'm so sorry that we've just suddenly hijacked the conversation. Oh, Dario's here. At least someone's going to look fabulous on cam.
Stop it. I was saying,
he loves it,
I
really.
it's very horrible when I get hit on. I remember the latest one. It was an old man. He was quite an old man, probably in his 70s at most. But he comes up to me, and I'm walking to work, and I'm got my weave on, and all in the ghetto. I'm super extra, so I'm always out. I go out to dress like a supermodel of the world. But so basically, he comes up to me. He had an Irish accent. He goes, "Oh, I'm a bit sorry there, but like, I just saw you I just saw you walking there, and you look very cute." And I just go, no. Flip my hair, scurry off. And I know there's no excuse for being rude, but I think that's probably my mechanism of defense, because as a stranger and a typically older man,
Oh no.
it's kind of
Exactly, it's a bit freaky, and I think actually no, you're wrong. There is every excuse to be rude, especially if it's it's not something that you've encouraged and that kind of thing. Like, I feel like today I was like harassed pretty much on and off all day. Like, I was muting myself in between it too, and people like stopping and speaking to me. I'm like, look, do I look like I was obviously engaged in a conversation with my computer? Can you please off? Thanks.
I think men have this sort of idea that this overly confident personality where if I go up to a woman and show that I'm confident and that I'm okay to ask on a date, that's going to be something that's going to make her attracted to me. But no, it comes off very arrogant, very rude, and kind of creepy. And like that's the sort of thing you see in the movies. Like, please, if I'm walking to work on the street, you do not come up to me and just ask me out randomly. It's weird.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, it's really creepy, and it's a bit like Skylar said, like the whole curb crawling thing, and when people like reverse back and stuff, how creepy is that, Skylar? Do you not think? Like, I think all of us kind of agree that that's just freaky. Like, I don't understand how people would do that and think it's normal, to be honest with you.
I always say my ideal scenario where that should happen is I want them to try and be friends with me instead of hitting on me. If I want to be friends with the person before I go out on coffee, I don't want to have a stranger approach me and say, "Oh, do you want to go out for coffee sometime?" And
Yeah.
because it's weird, it really is, and I don't get how men think it's something that's like appropriate to do.
No, it really isn't. I've just read Ben's comment, TLDR. What does that mean? You guys are probably more clued up on that kind of thing.
I have no idea.
To let something. I mean, don't be a cunt, but at least Guinness man offered you a drink. TLDR, I don't know what that means, but I mean, I wasn't an asshole to him. He wasn't that rude, but of course he offered me a drink. Like, where else did he think he was going to get? Like, he can't like walk up to me and go, "Hey, I'm going to offer you nothing," because he was punching well above his weight too. So like, there's no way in a million years he's going to offer me nothing. I'm going to go, "Okay, I'm suddenly going to go home with you." No, it's not going to happen. Too long didn't read. Okay.
Back on the subject of abortion, I just want to say, I as you guys know, I went to a Catholic high school, and even though I didn't go to Catholic primary school, it was still like Catholic, had a Catholic ethos, I guess, and we were always taught that we were never taught right or wrong, which I guess looking back at it now, it's a good thing because it's making you decide for yourself. But I would say that this idea of pro-choice and pro-life, it's something that I'm trying to find the right words. In schools, I think they have the freedom of leaning towards one or the other, and the way they. So, example, my high school, they were clearly pro-life, and although they taught us pro-choice, that didn't necessarily mean that would stop them from pushing us to pro-life.
I see what you mean. So what you're saying is they should have been more neutral, in your view. Or...
Yeah. So I feel like and what I'm trying to say, like, they mask this choice that we have when really we see right through it, and they're pushing us towards this, and it's evident by the examples they show us, and it can also be fed into sex education. My sex education was done by my best friend's mother, who was my teacher at the time. And of course, it doesn't sound that bad, but I feel like if your child goes to the high school, I don't think you're very much in an appropriate situation to be a sex ed teacher. It made me very uncomfortable, and also it clearly made her very uncomfortable. She rarely wanted to talk about I'm going to say the good stuff, because we never ever even seen a condom at all. All we got in sex education was, we didn't even get a video. We got a book and some diagrams and of some very ugly peni, and it was disgusting, and it was very evident. She was very awkward. We were very awkward, and it made everything very, very, very awkward.
Maybe
So
you should have
bad.
gone to Ben's school.
Peni, it made me like
Peni, I know.
so bad.
Skylar, you're looking gorgeous today, as usual.
Thank you. I did my curls. Oh my
You
God.
did.
I look like an old lady. I used the plastic rollers, like the ones from like the 1920 kind of thing.
No,
so
this is why you hit 40s. You're rocking the 40s look, which is great.
I know, thank you. And I walked with my sister to the store, and she's like, "Oh, can you pretend not to know me because I had the rollers in my hair?" She's like, "I don't want to know you right now," and I'm like, "Girl, I'm your sister."
You know what? I think I'm gonna like secretly film myself with the Guinness guy in a second, so you can see how pervy he is.
Yeah, I think like to add on to what Daria was saying about like there being a clear like preference in certain schools, like here in like the U.S., it is kind of divided up that way. Like, New York is fairly democratic, and so I felt in school we were learning a little bit more of like the whole pro-choice, be supportive kind of thing. But like I had a friend of mine who, her and her friend grew up in Florida, and there it's a more conservative state for the most part. And her friend went for an abortion because, you know, she was like, I'm fairly young and I don't want to have a kid, and, you know, things happen fast, and, you know, she had her own reasons or whatever. And when she got there, the doctor was like, you know, she already had the schedule. She already spoke to someone before. So this was supposed to be the day she was getting her abortion. But the doctor there literally sat with her for like a good 22 minutes before her procedure and was like, you know, you're young. You shouldn't do this. Like, basically sat there guilt tripping her and like convincing her of not to do it. So she ended up not doing it. And now she's like older and she's like, you know, I regret not making that decision. Like, I love my kid, but like,
Yeah, of
I
course.
could
Like,
have done a lot more for my kid had I had them at an
I
older
feel
age.
like a lot of times, especially here in the UK, I feel like a lot of options are explored to the extent needed. I feel like abortion is probably something that is maybe too much, at least where I'm from, not from the north, especially where I live in Salford. It's too much of a, I guess, widespread thing. I feel like a lot of times girls where I'm from were taught that if you get pregnant at a young age, it's such a bad thing. You have to go get an abortion. It's wrong, and I feel like that's the kind of pressure that we have around where I live. And I remember I had a friend. Her name was Amber. I'm not going to say her name, but it was Amber, and she was crying to me saying, "I don't want to do this. Don't want to do this." And everyone's telling me I should. And I've spoken to all my other friends. They said that I should. Even other people. And I think it's so wrong, and I felt like not everyone's options are explored to an extent because, like you guys were saying, like Angels and Francois were saying before, there's adoption, there's fostering, and as a foster child myself, I would always say make sure you explore your options first. I know that it's very incredibly hard going through that pregnancy stage just to give a child up, and that is part of the choice, and that's the reason why you would have an abortion. I just don't want. What I have a problem with is people having an abortion because they think that they have to as an only choice. I want everyone to make sure they have their own choices. It's like me at the moment, transitioning. All the doctors want to make sure that I know exactly what I'm doing. I know all my right choices before I go into the deep end. And I think it's such a huge part. And I think because I think abortion's not explored in that variety. I think that all our options aren't massively.
Okay. Can I quickly mention? Did President A say something earlier that we missed? Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Francois.
That's okay. President A said, talking about approaching people, he says, when I approach someone, I like to get to know them first before I ask them out. Some said yes, some said no, but we've all remained friends. Just wanted to put that in there. I think that was lovely.
Oh, that is lovely. Yeah, I mean, I can remain friends with people, but I don't really appreciate if I'm like obviously busy. I don't really see how why somebody would come up and be like, "Hey, hey, gorgeous," blah blah blah, and like do the whole sort of thing that I've heard a million times before. It's never really going to get anywhere. So I don't understand how that's going to be great.
I feel like it's like I would prefer them to make friends with me rather than something.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm more than happy. Yeah, exactly. Like, well, you know me. I'm more than happy to chat to like anyone, pretty much. But not when it's like, hey, if you're still here, I want to like when it's like the whole cracking. It also makes me cringe because it's just embarrassing. Like, there's no acceptable way out of that.
It's not real life. You don't just go to someone if you're here in 5 minutes for a drink. It's just you've been watching too many movies, I think. It's just not what happens.
Also, Benji said, well, it's obviously worked for them at one point, or they would. Oh, you mean with other people? I thought you meant with me. No, it certainly has not worked with him, but yeah, with other people, maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Say, I'm guilty of this, and it's a very big double standard for coming to women. I feel like if it was someone who's considered textbook pretty, and they came up to me and said, "Oh, can I buy you a drink?" I'd probably more inclined to say yes, go for it. But if I'm not attracted to that person, I feel like I'm more, oh, you're a bit weird, a bit creepy. So I'm guilty.
Do you know what's really weird about me is I am not really into pretty boys. Like, I'm more into personalities and people that can actually take me on and like be a bit quippy. And like and so many people aren't like that. Yeah. And so they're just not like that. So loads of people are like, oh, you know, like with boyfriends in the past, they've been like, well, you know, he's not exactly like, you know, he's punching above his weight and that kind of thing. But that's because I don't necessarily just go for, like, to me, looks are sort of secondary to someone's brain and how it works. I know that sounds really cliche, but it's true. And I've always been that way, really, because I can't deal with someone who's dumb.
That's the problem I have. I don't go for looks, I would say, but I tend to have a nice type, I guess. And then I tend to throw myself into things, and then I judge on their personality too late. And so I'll throw myself into some kind of relationship with a guy, or give that guy some of my time. And because I'm very full on, full force, impatient, I won't realise I don't actually like him because I've not taken any time to get to know him on a personal level. So that's how things go a bit wrong for me.
Okay. I think
I have to say I'm like Angels. Oops, sorry. I was just gonna say I think I'm like Angels in the respect of like I go more for personality than look. Like, I mean, Angels, you see my boyfriend, and like I don't think he's a pretty boy.
I told him to his face that he was punching above his weight, but then, you know,
well, it's surprisingly because like I've seen previous girls he's dated and they're all pretty too. So I'm like, yeah, I think it's just a personality thing that works. But I mean, anyway, continue what you were saying.
I was going to say, they're not as pretty as you, but then maybe I might be a little bit biased.
Oh, hell no. Nope. No, you cannot. You're not biased. I know. I look good.
Right now,
I'm doing oh my God, I just did the Dario hair flip.
Oh, did you? You're right about Dario, by the way. Whenever he's on cam, he just looks so fabulous for some reason. No, you do. Loads of people just look terrible on webcam because it's just like an unflattering angle, or like, you know, some people just have awkward face expressions. But yeah, Dario does look amazing. That's true.
Yeah, and his makeup is on point. I'm like, what color lipstick is that? You and I are similar shades.
It is. I'll get it.
Oh,
him and I are matching today. We're both wearing dark lip and black stuff on.
It is antique velvet.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I have that same lipstick in my house. It's by MAC, right?
Right. Next live.
I love that. Yeah.
Anyway, what I was going to say is, I'm in a relationship, and he knows that I'm transgender, and he's okay with it, which I'm so happy about. Because if you remember the last live, I was like so worried. Like, anyway,
you're worried, yeah. Mm.
And I know that he's not. I've not dated anyone like him before. Judging on looks, of course, but in terms of personality, I couldn't be more happier because he's got the best personality ever. And I think what I've come to realize is I've never had a full-on relationship, and it's because I always not ended up liking their personalities. So what's happened here is I've got to know the person first, and then and somehow looks have come past me, and like I do not care, and like he knows and I know that we're both not the ideal typical people that we both usually date, but we know that we're somewhat compatible because we love each other's personalities, and there's so much alike.
Yeah, I mean, you see, that is actually, and whilst that sounds like a massive cliche, like when you sort of say, oh, it's not looks that matter, it's personality that does, it actually is true. Like, it's not just a cliche, it is true. Because if I dated, I mean, actually the person that I'm sort of seeing at the moment is like a pretty boy, and well, Francois knows this, he's seen pictures. but like he is a pretty boy, but I don't go for pretty boys because they don't really interest me, because they seem to be superficial. They don't have a brain that's even like quarter active, and I just can't deal with it. So yeah, I'm not interested really, and so it's always kind of been that way. Like, I always get hit on by like typical guys because I'm like, I've got the blonde hair, and I suppose I do myself up. I've got the earrings and the heels and blah blah blah. But actually, it just doesn't interest me, especially not now, because I just think, well, I'm too old for this crap. Even though I look young, I just can't be dealing with their moronic.
I've never
Right. And to add in from Angel's there are some pretty boys with like part of a brain, but for me, I always went for the personality, and usually older guys, because a lot of guys my age, or like, yeah, like my age, or I don't know, I never really got into younger. It's either like a problem with maturity, or like guys of my age, their problem was they were too intimidated by me. They're like, well, you know what you want to do, you know what you want, you're very smart, so you're kind of intimidating. It's just a little off-putting. I'm like, all right, I guess, whatever. Like, F you do.
You guys, I have to say, I love how this has branched out into a discussion about relationships and meeting people and all that. I think that's fantastic. I think what we will do for now, however, is maybe end this chat, because this chat is on abortion. But Angels, if it's okay with you, would you mind possibly opening up maybe another hangout, and then everyone talk about relationships over there?
I will rehost one and we can carry on. Yeah, that's no problem.
Yeah,
and I will send everyone the link.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. But one thing on like abortion, like I know my mom, she recently just had one. And so since, just to, I guess, end off the topic, so she recently had one, and before like having it, she's like, well, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, oh, I hate being asked, because, you know, like Francois had his video recently with choices and the choices we make and all the conundrums, and I was like, you know, I gave her my honest opinion. I was like, I don't think, I don't think you should have this child because of reasons. And I was like, I'll list my reasons. I was like, one, I was like, you have you have 3 children, you have a 2-bedroom apartment, and 3 of us are stuck in one room together. Granted, I'm not going to live with my mom forever, but adding another child in there to share another room, I know my mom, she won't ask for a new 3-bedroom apartment, because I've been telling her to do that since I'm older than my sisters by like 9 years. You would think, you know, I would own my own room. And that never happened, so I don't think she would have made the incentive with this new child to have that done, because she likes the area she's in and all that. And I was like, 2, you have a child with a disability right now that needs everyone's individual attention. Now having an infant, they're going to need as much attention as she would, because, you know, it's an infant. I was like, it's hard going to be splitting your attention between a newborn and Mia. And then I was like, also, right now you're very dependent and reliant on me to watch my sisters. Like,
when she goes to work and when she goes and does, yeah.
And or also when my mom's in this phase where she wants to go out and party a lot. Like, not a lot, but like every other weekend she wants to go out with my stepdad and go out for drinks and restaurant. And I'm like, you want to do that, but you can't do that when you're pregnant. You can't do that when there's an infant, because one, I don't want to change diapers again. Not at this point. Like, I'm at that phase. I don't want to take care of a kid, like a baby. I was like, I don't want to do that again. And she's like, I'd take care of it. And I'm like, you said that with Mia Maya, and, you know, I got some of the load, you know what I mean? And then I was like, also, you're 42, you know? I mean, you're probably healthy enough too, you know, there's women who are older and have it, but I was like, you know, do you want to have a kid at 42? Because my mom tends to do this thing where she like judges other women for having kids at such an old age, right? And I'm like, don't be your own hypocrite. And so I'm giving my mom like pure honest feedback. I was like, also, financially, we just can't afford to have another kid here. That's diapers, is another mouth to feed. As like, I contribute my part to like the food shopping and like her bills, and I'm like, we can't afford to have another kid. Like I'm saying we because like I'm not. I didn't even have the baby, but you know what I mean.
Now,
So
yeah,
like
no,
there was.
I agree, Skylar. I think that is actually stupidly responsible of you. I think that's actually really, really good because I think I would have said the exact same.
So I was giving her like these reasons, to try to like I'm not saying I don't, I was like, but I told her I was like, but at the end of the day, that's your own choice. You know what I mean? It's your body. If you're gonna have it, you're gonna have it. Just you know what I mean. And we're all gonna have to eat the decision. But like I don't think it's a good idea. You know what I mean? So and my stepdad, he wasn't really up for it either because he was just like mainly financial reasons and space. And then, I was like, but it'll be my sibling, so I would care for it regardless. You know what I mean?
Of
That's what I told
course,
her.
but you're saying in like practical terms, it was not
Right.
like.
Although me and my little sister, like my little sister started making jokes and I started cracking jokes like, Mom, if you're 43 and then the kid's 10, you'll be 53. Do you think like people confuse you for their mom or their grandma? Like we're being dicks, like a little bit. And
But
she's like,
you know
stop
what
it.
though? It isn't actually a big deal now. Like even years ago, like because my mum had me when
Right.
she was someone's breathing into the mic. My mum had me when she was 37, going on 38, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was 30 odd years ago. So I think, and I feel like as people get older, especially with people that have careers and that are more educated, that they tend to have children later. Like they tend to literally make the actual choice of having children later.
Right, but with like that also being said, my mom works at like a checking cashier place, and she makes like the $12 an hour. I was like, financially, we just can't do it. You know what I mean? I was like, when I go
Yeah,
back to
exactly. An
school,
extra,
it's just
especially when
it's
you go back, like an extra mouth to feed, it's not really doable.
yeah. So anyway, so she got the abortion done. This is where like things get bumpy. So like a few days ago, she's like, I feel really bad about what I did because one of the ladies on my job, she said her daughter just lost her child, and they were trying, and I just feel like a murderer. And I was like, well, I was like, it depends on how you look at it, like you can think it was just a little fetus, and you were only like, I think she was only like a little over a month, 6 weeks, I think it was. So it was like, I was like, you could look at it that way, and you can also look at it that you have reasons to not do it. And she goes, yeah, but if I'm a murderer, you're kind of a murderer too, because you didn't give me good advice. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I gave you reasonable advice. She goes, no, you were cracking jokes at me. I was like, granted, I cracked jokes, but I also gave you sound advice. You know what I mean? And she's like, I should ask other people for their opinion. She goes, I don't know how you could sleep at night. I go, I sleep perfectly fine at night. Like, at the end of the day, Mom, like, if you wanted to have the child, you could have had it. None of us put a gun to your head when you were sat down and had the abortion. Like, that, you know what I mean? And I was like, you could have had the child and we all would have been, like, we all would have accepted your decision, but I gave you advice against it because look at where we're at. You know what I mean? It's hard,
Yeah, but
And
I
so,
mean,
like,
I certainly think it was like the right decision. I'm sorry about the noise, by the way.
so her and I began to like bump heads, and I'm getting frustrated because I think my mom was trying to guilt trip me into feeling a certain way, and I was like, I'm not gonna feel that way because, what I did was I gave you advice that I thought was like sound advice. Granted, you wanted other advice, you could have done that, but don't guilt trip me for your abortion. You know what I mean?
My
I mean, I don't
biological,
know. What do you guys think?
I
my
think that you are absolutely right. And Dario's back on looking fabulous again. So I'm gonna give the floor to him for a second whilst I plug this shit in. Be right back.
yeah. So my biological mum, I went into the care system when I was 6 years old. So and my mum, I just want to call Katrina. So it's easier than just going biological mum all the time. So Katrina, she started having loads and loads of kids, and although the social worker was telling her that these kids are going to be put up for adoption because she, by social services and the government, is classed as an unfit mother. So, and she ignored them and she went ahead and had 6 more children. And so, which I know I'm not going to sit here and say that I didn't want that to happen. I'm going to say that I love that fact that I've got more siblings. I love that I've got more family. But the fact that she then had those children, straight away got them taken off her, put for adoption, and then she's having to deal with now the repercussions of that. I think what's right about what you were doing, Skylar, is that you gave reasonable advice and your mother did the right thing by taking that, and somewhere deep down she knows it was the right thing to do. And what's happening, like my mother, she's having to deal with the repercussions of basically the shit part about being a human, and it's this thing called empathy and this thing called sympathy. And I feel like you should probably say to, and actually I'm not going to tell you what you should say to your mother. I think that's something that you should decide, but something that I would, if I was in the same situation, I would say, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong for feeling sympathy. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong for being empathetic, because you are a human being and that's just what you should do. But I would also say that you need to also think about that child's quality of life. Would it have been the best it could have ever been? Is it the most practical thing to do? And all the reasons that you said to her, Skylar, point those out to her again. And you need to also say, I think it's also about every single situation is different, and comparing someone else's situation to yours is something that's just going to make the situation more complex and more complicated than it needs to be.
Right, and I agree. Like, I did tell her the first part that you mentioned. I was like, while we were having this like back and forth, I was like, I'm not telling you not to feel like sad or hurt by what you did. Like, it happens. People feel like that and they go through those emotions. Like, I can't say I can feel the way you can feel. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's, those are your feelings and I respect that. Well, I'm like, however, what I'm not going to respect or is you blaming me for a decision that was mainly your own decision. You know what I mean? Like, because then it's like you put me in a predicament when you want to ask me for advice and you feel some type of way about it, then you chew me up about it, and then it's like, how am I supposed to give you advice on something? So I mean, things gotten a little better after that, but like, it was like, I think it was something that was done for the best, when you look at it in terms of longevity, like, But I'm like, abortion, I think, is something that, like, most people should, you can consider it, but, like, consider the pros and cons to it. And, like, everyone's situation is different. That happened to be my mom's, like, situation. And I felt like since we're on the topic, I would share it because it was a situation where, things can flip. So, anyone who's going through the situation, I wish them the best and, get a full roundabout and thought about everything. Because, a baby is like, it comes with the joys of being a mom, but it also comes with a string of responsibilities to it. So, yeah.
Definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm sure you can hear the football in the background. Obviously, I'm in the pub, as usual. Hopefully you don't get another useless copyright strike for no reason. Okay, I've got a random person would like to FaceTime me. I'm definitely not answering that. Anyway, I just wanted to finish up by saying I'm pretty sure that Francois has to go soon. Just wanted to let you all know it's been awesome, really fun. I'm going to rehost another hangout, so if you guys want to jump in, we're just going to have another general chat and that kind of thing. And we will probably continue discussing the issues as well, but it's probably just going to be a general hangout and we'll see how long it lasts on my poor internet data. Skylar's mum would kill me for this.
Right. I think President A wrote something before we go. He wrote, "Bye all. Was an interesting chat. Need sleep. Will be at tomorrow's chat. Hope everyone has a good morning, afternoon, night, wherever you are."
Right. So wait. I mean, great. That's lovely, President A. I can't see. Normally, I see his chat in the comments, but I don't see it. So like, I can see like Chase's comments. I can see Ben's comments. I can see my comments saying Skylar's better. Yeah, girl.
You know what?
I can
I
see
love
Chase's.
it's Henry Mills Chase, and I love the fact that I know both of those characters.
Before we go, Francois, I'm so glad you opened the box and I was able to see your reaction to it. I'm glad you enjoyed everything in it. Now, the keychain was not supposed to be in the chocolate. That chocolate just melted. Granted.
I thank you so much, Carla. I washed the chocolate off. I've got the keychain like how it's supposed to be now, and I've got it in front of me. It's the most adorable teddy bear. Seriously.
I know. She told me she was going to give it to you, and I was like, "That's so cute." So I thought it would be like an awesome surprise. I think Dario's been trying to say stuff, and we're not like we don't hear you, Dario. You have to make sure that you unmute your mic.
It's okay. I'm not trying to say anything.
Oh, okay. It's just that you looked all. There was you like flicking your hair and being all fabulous, and I was like, oh, he must be trying to say something, right? Because.
No, so this is all new to me. This long hair thing, and I'm constantly looking at my face. It's not get it out. Fine.
Yeah, just to be thankful you don't have a god awful black wig like Charlotte in Pretty Little Lies finale. Okay, not that I'm still bitter or anything.
But that leads us to a very good point. So just first of all, Skylar, I do want to thank you again. It's absolutely beautiful. And when I next appear on camera, you'll see some of the stuff behind me because I put it up and I'm very happy. So thank you. You've made my day. I feel like Christmas came early. It was just wonderful. So thank you so very much.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was like, I definitely knew they opened it because of how the tissue paper was wrapped. My wrapping skills are like on fire and they're excellent. And like they just folded the tissue paper. I was like, no, I had things wrapped up. What are they doing? So I was gonna like go crazy on like the custom borders because I literally had the blue tissue paper. I should have taken a picture of it. In the outside of the box and everything was tucked into it and it was like folded neatly and then the ribbons, so I was like, they done messed up my order. But I was like, as long as the package made it.
It did. I'm so sorry about customs, but it definitely made it. Now just quickly, if anyone is still watching, I just want to touch on quickly what Angels was saying. Speaking of Charlotte and her awful wig, roughly this time tomorrow night, well, 11:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, we are going back in time to Pretty Little Liars, and it's going to be fantastic because I know that I've said for so long it's the show we don't mention, but clearly there are people out there, including myself, who still want to talk about it. Tomorrow will be our chance, so make sure that you join me and all of us at 11:30 p.m. for our Pretty Little Liars look back at the finale and the show. Sorry, Darren.
Oh my god, I still have to send you my alternate ending.
I'm obviously in the middle of like recording an album, working and doing stuff, but I don't think that happens before.
So you're not liking the wig then, Dario?
No, I love the wig. It's just anything.
Just feels weird.
The length.
Yeah.
It's always.
Yeah.
If it's any images of here, I don't want it.
Well, it looks fabulous, if I may say so before I go there. It does look fabulous. And Skylar, yeah, absolutely. Anytime you want to send me your ending, that will be fantastic. I enjoyed reading all of them, so yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, anytime you want to send it to me, that's fine. Thank you to everyone for joining us for this lovely chat. It was wonderful. I almost don't mind that we went over time because it did turn out to be a very interesting conversation. I hope you will join Angels on her chat. I might duck in for about 5 or so minutes myself, but then I'll duck out. But
I have
thank
to
you.
host from the pub,
Sorry.
just so you know. So it's going to be quite noisy because I have to get the train home yet. So I was only in the office for about 5 minutes. Literally, I'm like, there's my work. I'm off. I have some other stuff to actually do. What a lie. Yeah. All right then.
All right. So,
Okay, I will. Yeah, I will say bye to you. I'm going to duck out now. So, Francois, if you want to just like wrap up, everything's cool, and I will post the link shortly, and I'll send it to Ben and the people that aren't in the group separately.
all right, no problems at all, Angels. Thank you. Yeah, so definitely, you can get the link from Angels, which will be great. But thank you all once again for coming today to this abortion chat for our social issues chat. We've had a great discussion today with a lot of different and varied opinions and different things that have been brought up just by the sake of talking about abortion, which has been absolutely wonderful. And that's exactly what social issues chat was always meant to be about. So thank you very, very much to everyone. I hope to see you all tomorrow night, 11:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for our Pretty Little Lies chat. I am so excited. I can't wait. But I will see you all then. Hugs and kisses. Bye, Dario. Bye, Skylar. Bye, everyone else. I'll see you soon.
Night, night, world.
Bye.
Bye.